Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Clark Everett. I'm the Director of Conference Education at the National Apartment Association, and I'm hosting you all this afternoon. Thanks for making time to join us. We're really thrilled to have you be a part of our day today. Today, we're gathered to have a sneak peek webinar for a session that will happen at the CampusConnex conference in Orlando, Florida, on February 13th and 14th. Today we're going to be addressing the topic of turn. The title of the webinar is Unprepared for Turn. There we go. So CampusConnex was formerly known as the NAA Student Housing Conference. It is a gathering designed specifically for people who are focused on off-campus purpose-built student housing. I think we've been in business for about 11 or 12 years. We're excited to be gathering in February in Orlando. Nice place to visit in the when it's cold in a lot of the country. And we'll be joined by about 900 industry professionals who are focused on this particular market sector. This event is a really great way for you to meet other industry peers who do a very similar job to what you do. It's a great way to have access to some really great up-to-the-minute education that will be super applicable to you and help you in your job performance. And we also have an exposition that will allow you access to all the most current goods and services that are available for this particular market sector. I'm really proud to work on this event and deliver something really useful for our membership and beyond. If you're interested in finding out more about the conference, or you'd just like to go ahead and pull the trigger and register, you can find all the details at the link on your screen. Don't worry about having to write this down because this event is being recorded. Following in the next day or two after the webinar is over, we'll send you a follow-up email with a link to the recording, and so you can have all the details in one place at your fingertips. You don't have to worry about taking notes. You can really just sit back, relax, and soak in the information, including this link to the website and all the particular details. Today, it's my pleasure to introduce to you a really great group of esteemed industry professionals. Brian Henson is the Director of Operations for Simply International. He works out of Austin, the Austin market, and he has experience including managing 1,674 beds. Among other experience, he's actually been in the industry for about 10 years. Amanda Lifsey is a portfolio supervisor at the Quarters on campus. After joining San Miguel Management in 2007, Amanda has helped the company by growing occupancy and net operating income. Amanda has guided her team through at least 10 successful turns of over 1,674 beds. Jennifer Messina is the Vice President of Marketing at San Miguel Management, and she has a portfolio consisting of both conventional and student housing assets. She's responsible for overseeing the company's entire marketing strategy and all aspects of multi-level marketing program encompassing branding, development of collateral materials, event coordination, social media, and press analysis relationships. And last but not least is Tana Lee Higginbotham. She's the Senior Vice President of Asset Management at Pierce Education Properties. She has over 25 years of experience in business development, leadership, operational management, analytical and strategy decision-making for direct impact success in real estate. She's a powerhouse, in fact, and I've had the pleasure of working for Tana on the last 3 or 4 planning cycles for this particular conference. Tana is the moderator for this session, so I'll turn things over to her, and she can tell you a little bit about herself and how we're going to structure the rest of the webinar for the afternoon. Hey, Tana.
Hey, thanks, Clark, for the awesome introduction. We really appreciate it. I have the pleasure today of being the moderator, and our panelists will be sharing each 5 tips and tricks to assist you during your turn preparation. And my first and foremost important tip of the day is expect the unexpected. You can never start preparing for turns soon enough. Here at Pierce Education, we start immediately after move-in to review what was successful during the turn process and what growth areas, or we call them challenges, or improvements are needed for our next year. After that assessment process, we continue to fine-tune any of our policies and procedures, any of our turn tips and tricks, so that we're set for success for the following year. We always look to our property teams to share their success stories. Even something as little as our turn or our spiff buckets, we send around pictures. We have lots of contests for things in preparing for turn, so it kind of helps keep the team motivated, and then everybody shares all of their great ideas. My second tip of the day today is for critical areas of focus in selecting the best turn vendors in the market. And this process is you want to set your bid process with articulate specifications so that you can complete apples to apples bids to ensure the best quality vendors for the best price. It's not helpful at all if you receive a bid from one vendor for 300 full units and another vendor's bidding for partials. You want to keep all your specifications identical so it makes it easier during the review process as you start getting bids back. Service contract preparation is critical, including all expectations and time completion schedules to ensure all units are prepared to your company's standards and completed on in time, ensuring high renewal retention for next year. You want to repeat your successes, and you want to remove any issues that you have to ensure a great turn. Vendor criteria is required to ensure the approval process, vendor reference checks, punch checklists, vendor inspections, and vendor communications are all met for each one of your properties and your property teams. Remember, good vendors are priceless. Your goal is to lock in your vendors, seal up your contracts before your competitors do, especially in some of the smaller markets where vendors are a limited resource. Tip number 3, staff training, communication, scheduling, and motivation is critical to your team turn success. And again, your team is your number one asset. Nobody can complete a successful turn by themselves. Ensure that your employees get adequate rest prior to the turn process, because the turn process can be a grueling schedule. Set pre-training meetings to over-communicate the turn process. Advanced preparation of employee turn schedules are set to cover the full process and keep communication open. You never want to wait till just before move out to remind everybody that nobody can take off and go to Cancun for the week during turn. Keep your turn heavily motivated, over-communicate appreciation, and offer lots of turn meals, treats, and appreciation snacks. Here at Pierce, we have a direct line to Garrett's Caramel Corn in Chicago, and we get all the pre-packaged individual caramel corn shipped out to our properties so they can grab and eat them on the go and get lots of sugar. So tip number 4, complete anything and everything you can prior to your actual move out. Prepare comprehensive turn supply orders. Furniture should be ordered and delivered prior to move out. Carpet, vinyl, and furniture placement should be completed at all times prior to move-in, and we always start with our renewals first. Any items found during your last quarterly or pre-move-out inspection should be replaced in advance, including broken blinds, light bulbs, AC filters, and any pre-maintenance punch that can be completed in advance. And my last tip of the day is turn board and budget control tools. Track and document all turn needs, vendor service completion, costs, and inspection completion so you can ensure every unit's ready for move-in. Prioritize with transfer units, partial units, highly damaged units, and always walk the units that you haven't received keys for. The units you don't get keys are the units that are either your problem units or the units you need first for move-in. Thank you. And Clark, I think our next slide is with Amanda Turn Center.
Yes, thank you. I was muted. I was talking away and wasn't paying attention. So.
That's okay.
This is exciting. Hey, thank you so much, Tana, for sharing those tips. We really appreciate it. Next up is Amanda. How are you today, Amanda?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Yeah, you look great. A little tiny square. I feel like the Brady Bunch today.
Thank you.
So Amanda is going to focus sort of on managing vendors and tips that sort of fall in that area of focus.
Yes. My first slide tip is going to be on the Turn Center. We'll get started there. And the Turn Center is going to be the main purpose that we have in our Turn Center. Some of you might call it a war room, is to really pull all vendors away from the leasing center. It gives a central location for you to be able to operate and facilitate turn without operations necessarily interfering, and they continue to lease if needed. So inside your Turn Center, you're going to have your turn boards. This is going to be great for tracking the progress of turn. You're going to be able to also track your vendors, make sure that they're staying on schedule, that they're hitting the apartments and the beds that they need to hit on schedule every single day. You can monitor your move-in dates. Most of us are probably going to have move-in dates all in one time, but we have early move-in dates for people transferring on site. You want to make sure that those are being hit by your vendors on schedule. And also you can track additional costs. You're going to be able to see, for instance, any carpet replacements that you have going on. You want to make sure that everything is documented on there, and so that they do get replaced as you're walking to confirm on your quality control walks. Vendor logs are also important to have inside the Turn Center. We use vendor logs, for instance, for keys. Every time a vendor comes in to check out a key, it's documented, and then as the evening is coming to an end, you want to make sure that you're communicating to make sure that all those keys get checked in. So you're constantly tracking to make sure that you get the keys that you need before the end of the day. Paint. This is an important one to us because we actually refer back to this on budgeting and knowing what to order for the next year. The paint log check lets us see exactly what paint has been checked out, how much primer, kills, our texture as well. And then turn sheets. And turn sheets are what any of our vendors turn in after they've completed a bed, and also our quality control sheets. So we know exactly which rooms to mark off our board. And those are easy access while we're in the Turn Center to refer back to if there's any discrepancy, as well when invoicing comes along, so you'll be able to track those sheets as well. And so for tip number 2 is vendor communication. This is so important because communication can easily fail. So you want to make sure that you create a turn schedule for your vendors so that you are able to effectively communicate what your expectations are, how many beds and units they need to finish in a day, and make sure that you're monitoring that daily. Having one point of contact is also something that's really important that we tend to do every single year so that you're not playing that game of telephone. You have one person to report to, one person to communicate with, and they report to their crews. What to do if a vendor falls behind? You need to be able to communicate with them and make sure that you communicate your expectations. Find out if they're going to be able to bring more crews on to get caught up from maybe them falling behind on the day before, or pull their resources. Call vendors that you've previously used. Contact your apartment association in your area, or if you have sister properties. And then last, one thing that you might need to do is brace for impact. If you are unable to finish an apartment on time, It's unfortunate, but it can happen. You need to be able to communicate with the vendor, find out when the apartment can be done, and then effectively communicate that to the resident that's moving in so that they don't have any more surprises on their move-in day. Cost per bed. So calculating the cost per bed is easily done by the total amount that you've spent for turn, dividing that by the number of beds that you've actually turned for that year. Ways to track that so you do stay on schedule for budgeting is we have an Excel spreadsheet that we use every year that is actually linked to our turn control board. And every time a carpet is replaced, cleaners go in, it's an easy update. You just a click of a button and it's able to track that. I can see where we are daily and then at the end of the week, and also verify that with invoices as they come in. One thing that you do want to make sure you do is update that each year with new pricing and your trades so that you don't have last year's pricing in your current control, in your current Excel spreadsheet. Keys to a successful turn. I threw this one in because I feel like communication is going to be the key to it. The key to a successful turn. You're communicating with your on-site team, making sure that they have everything they need, deadlines and move-in dates, as well as vendors. Not only the vendors in the apartments, but your local police department. We use them to help direct traffic on move-in day. We use movers on move-in days to make sure that our elevators, to keep our elevators from maybe shutting down. Another important one is current residents. If they're current, that means that they've renewed. So they're going to see vendors coming and going inside the building, and in some cases in their apartment. So you need to make sure that you manage their expectations. You let them know when vendors are going to be entering their units. And then new move-ins. We have new move-ins that we have specific move-in times for each of our residents. So we need to communicate those times to residents as well as guarantors so that they don't show up and are unable to get their keys. And then last, I put on here neighborhood, because in the West Campus area where we have homes and everything so close to our communities. There's lots of trash being out, parking becomes an issue. So being able to communicate move-in dates and move-out dates and let them know that you will be on top of the trash and that you will have your maintenance team remove it, and also help direct traffic on those days by bringing in the police department and other resources.
As a layperson who has never been through turn before, Amanda, I have to say that this slide really resonates with me, because I can see that with something that has such a grand scale and that is so reliant on meeting deadlines, that it's really all a matter of making sure that all the moving parts go and that things coordinate. And you can have the best laid plans, but if you don't communicate over and over again, any of those things can break down and slow up the entire process. And I remember Tana saying that she uses the term over-communicate, which means, kill them with the message. So I think that's really useful. Thanks so much, Amanda. Next up, we have Jennifer Messina, who's well worth the wait. Hey, Jennifer, how are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing really well, thank you. Nice to see you this afternoon. What have you got for us?
All right. Since I do marketing, I get to focus on more of the fun and kind of that one. I think managing vendors is Amanda's. There we go. I get to focus more on the turn and kind of the fun part of turn. So one thing that I think is really important to start promoting early are renewals. And we start promoting those as soon as they pick up keys. Signage on the doors and on the elevators, making sure that the placement is somewhere where they can see it, so they can't say that they never saw about anything about renewing. We also have our staff between CAs and on-site staff and maintenance wear like fun kind of eye-catching shirts. I put a picture on this slide because our CAs wear shirts that say, you're looking hot, or your mom and dad are hot, don't make them move you again. In the back mentions renewing, because we offer like a renewal at the same rate with a deadline. And everybody wears those, and it's kind of a fun giggle whenever they pick up their keys. And then inside the apartments, we do magnets and flyers showing the cost of moving, any type of renewal incentive that we're offering, and just reminding them while they're going through the hot Texas move how much it sucks to do and how we'd love for them to stay. And then making sure that with renewals, you text and email on move-in day and right at the beginning, all of your move-ins while it's fresh on the brain, and just inviting them to renew as soon as they come in. The next one, my next tip is just communicate, kind of like Tina said, over communicate. We make sure to communicate with our residents through text. We use a text program that we have. You can select it by building or by resident. Email, we email everything all the time. And then obviously updating all of our social media with any information that we think is pertinent that all of our move-ins and residents need to know. We also create a Wix website that we use just for the turn time. And we use this for people moving in and for our residents that are moving out. We have two separate tabs, and we list for people moving out how much the charges would be on certain damages we have, where they turn in their keys. And then for move-ins, we have all of the logistics of move-in day, their move-in times, where they pick up keys. We have a checklist they can print off for everything they would need to bring, including their electric account statements, their rents, their renter's insurance, just to help make it as smooth of a move-in day as possible. And then I think it's important to always communicate not only with the residents, but their guarantors, and make sure that their guarantors stay in the loop with all of the information as well. One thing that we do that I think is a really neat tip is we do a welcome clean. That just came from years of experience on wondering how far we had to go as far as how many units we needed to turn, and just where things stood. And we create a welcome clean that we put on the front of all doors when the apartment is completely made ready. So when no one needs to go back in and it is move-in ready, we place this on the door. It says welcome in all different languages. Our vendors and all of our staff knows that if this is on the door, do not enter, because it's already been made ready, and we don't want anyone going in and accidentally tracking in dirt or getting it messed up before move-in. Keeping residents comfortable while vendors are going in and out of their apartment. This is kind of a tricky one, because you want to make sure that you keep your current residents in your thoughts as well. So we do a caution clean, which has worked out really well, that we put on the front of the door that just lets vendors and employees know that this apartment is partially occupied. And then we put one on the actual door where the resident is staying. And that way our vendors know and employees know they should never be entering in that bedroom. We also do a paragraph 28 letter on the back of the door that all vendors and employees sign every time they've gone into the apartment. And we sign that with date and time, and then hold on to that in case there's any questions after we've removed it. And then we have predetermined vendor hours so that our residents and the vendors know not to go in before or after certain times, so that the resident knows that during these times they're safe from anyone walking in on them. And then a note on the counter when things are complete, just saying thanks for your patience and our work is complete, so we won't be interrupting your time anymore. And then my last tip is for angry residents that unfortunately we've all come across before. Meet them at their apartment on move-in day. So if you have a resident that wants to speak to somebody in management, instead of pulling them on site so that other people picking up keys can see, we want to make a good first impression. So meet them at their apartment, and that way you can discuss the situation in private. Make sure to have housekeeping and maintenance on site for any issues. And that way, if there's something that's not clean to their satisfaction or any type of maintenance issues that needs to be addressed, you can get it fixed immediately. And then have vendors on call so that you can go ahead and communicate with the resident when a vendor will be able to come out and get whatever issue they're having completed. And then damage control team, we have a damage control team that their job on move-in day is just to walk through the halls, have a smiling face, introducing themselves, and kind of checking on all the residents moving in to make sure that they were happy with their move-in experience and that there isn't anything that they need. Just showing the residents that management cares and that we're here for them and to support them.
Jennifer, what a great way to sort of be proactive and create a good first experience for your residents. I think that's super good advice, and it all goes back to communication again. I feel like a lot of what you had to say was basically how you communicate with your residents and manage their experiences and create their first experience for them. Super useful. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Last on the docket, but not least, is Brian Henson. How you doing, Brian?
I'm well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So tell us sort of what your tips will focus on.
Mine will focus on managing a little bit of the kind of the leasing team as well as the walk teams going through the turn process.
Cool.
So my first tip is managing the walk teams. We always start our training, mid-May or earlier. We go over each expectation with the each team member, letting them know what really to look for when they're walking apartments, whether it be the different types of paint issues or carpet issues. We really get them ready to see what these apartments can look like. We have teams of 2. We've noticed that works best. You have one note taker and one photographer. This also allows them to kind of bounce ideas off of each other. Maybe one thinks that it's a full paint and the other thinks it's a partial paint. Well, they can come to an agreement and work through that. Also, while they're walking units, they can communicate troubled units to the turn team. And this allows those units to be addressed immediately rather than waiting for maintenance to maybe get to that floor or get to that building. That's kind of the first eyes and ears of the turn process, is getting to those units immediately. We say speed, but not too fast, because consistency matters. You're dealing with people's deposits and money that they've put down on this apartment. So we want it to be as accurate and as fair as possible. So while we want to walk 600 units in a day, we also want to be the most accurate that we can, and that will have a impact on the dispute period that you go through with residents. My tip number 2 is don't forget about the leasing center. A lot of the times, a lot of properties are still leasing up until move-in day, really. And so while the turn team is out in the buildings making them ready, I say don't forget about that leasing center. Start doing your file audits. Make sure that they're ready to go for move-in. Take notes on missing files and start that follow-up process before move-in day, so that the residents can bring the necessary paperwork or whatever to move-in day to get moved in quicker. Stay organized. Everyone is out doing their own thing. Turn is a crazy time for the student housing properties, and I think we all know this, but this is a time for where it's easy for things to fall through the cracks. So, have morning meetings with your leasing team. See what's needed for them. And again, I think it's echoing through all of our presentations, is communication is key. Alert the right people with the problems. Don't wait. Fix them immediately, because if you let it keep going, it's just going to get bigger and bigger and cause even more of an issue. One thing that we've started doing is express checkouts. This allows residents to sign up for early checkouts, maybe months earlier than their lease end date. This is a great way for them to walk the apartment with you, see what you see, and you can explain why they're being charged this, or maybe they don't understand what the damage is sometimes. And this is also a great way to get in and see those early damages, and allows you to plan for that major damage. Move-out accounting can be really daunting. Entering charges for 2,000 residents is a huge task. Start as soon as possible. Start directly after move-out. Account statements have to be out within 30 days. set a dispute period for the residents and send it out with their final account statements. If you're going to give them 30 days after their move out date to dispute any charges that they might have, put that in writing and send it with the final account statements. And last but not least is move-in day. This is the finale of the turn process. Keep that staff energy up. This is kind of the end goal to this month-long process. So we want it to be fun for the staff, but also for those residents moving in. They've waited, they've signed these leases sometimes a year in advance, and they're excited. They're coming with mom, dad, grandma. They want to move in. They make it fun for them. Separate the completed files ready for move-in from files that need more attention. That'll expedite the move-in process that the people that got their stuff in, that allows them to be, moved in as soon as possible. And address any issues, like Jen said, that you have with a resident at the apartment rather than at the move-in site, because there's no worse way than to have an upset resident ruin your move-in line, and then you have 100 messed up residents.
Excellent, Brian. That's a ton of stuff to think about. And once again, communication rings through on all four presenters. Can't communicate enough. Okay, so first of all, Tana, are you there?
I'm here. I'm in sunny San Diego, California.
Must be nice. We'll be coming to see you in June for another conference a little later next year. Hey, Tana, when people meet up in Orlando, what can they expect at your session?
Great. We're all looking forward to seeing everyone in gorgeous sunny Orlando. Our panelists will be available to personally address all your turn requests. We have a great presentation ready for everyone that attends, and then afterwards we'll have a Q&A to address any personal or property specific questions anyone has. And again, I really encourage everyone to get out there and register and get your hotel set up. It's a gorgeous city, and it's really a great high energy conference for all peak performers in the student housing industry. So I welcome you all to join us.
Thanks for the shameless plug, Tana. So there's contact information for each of these folks on the screen. You don't have to worry about writing it down now, because you will get a link in the next day or two via a way of a follow-up thank you note for attending the webinar. This session has been recorded, and you will have a link back to the recording so that you have all the details and you can review this stuff. There's some really granular information there, and you may want to refer back to the webinar or even share it with some of your colleagues. I would encourage you guys to register. If you haven't already, we would love to see you in Orlando, obviously. So please think about registering. If you've already registered, stay tuned. We have another webinar coming up on January the 11th, which will be another sneak peek, and we will contact you about that. Well, if you register for the event, you'll also be included in an invitation to a what to know before you go kind of webinar, where we kind of break down the event for everybody so that you maximize your attendance strategy. And with that, I just want to thank everybody, panelists included, as well as all of our attendees today, for carving out some time in your busy work life to get together and try and become more efficient at the ever massive challenge of turn. So thank you all very much, and we'll see you again soon on the ether. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
We look forward to seeing you all. Thank you.